I was like, it was a shock for me. I was like, okay, I found what I was looking for.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another episode of Big Local Podcast because we are Black, global, and we are local. And today I'd like to talk about something, that is very close to my heart, that is mentoring and coaching. And when I was thinking about this topic, I wanted to try and see how we can discuss it really in the African light, from an African perspective. So personally, I do mentoring with the project Girls for Girls under the Uganda chapter. And on the side, I do some coaching, which is basically productivity coaching. So I thought to myself, I just can't come here and start talking by myself. So I've invited two brothers. One is a coach, one is a mentor. And they'll help us to throw more light on these topics because these words are being thrown around left, right, and center. But what are these things really, really about? How do they help us? And is it a concept from outside or, Africa has had it before? And how can we leverage these powerful tools? So with me, I have two wonderful brothers. I would like them to, join us and introduce themselves. Tell us a bit about yourselves. Gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. So with me, we have Coach Barry and another brother called Weldon Ciele. I'll let them introduce themselves. Just tell us a bit about yourself, your name, where you're from. Just something to let the listeners or the viewers connect with you. Over to you guys.
Okay, great. Good morning. Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for inviting
Can
us to
call me
this session.
Murungi.
Murunki,
Today is
yes,
Africa's
Murunki.
Day.
Yes, so thank you very much, Murunki, for inviting us to be in your podcast today. So my name is Weldon Ciele, as it has been said. I'm a Kenyan, and I've been here in Japan, I think, for the last 5 years now. I came here as a student, but then transitioned to working with an international NGO that supports scholarships to African students. So that's what I do on full-time basis. But then also I started an initiative called Kecher Africa, where we basically mentor African high school students, specifically focusing at the rural high schools, starting with Kenya.
Okay, thank you for
Thank you,
that.
Mr. Mitchell.
Coach Barry.
All right, thank you for having me today, Murungi. It's a real pleasure. So my name is Barry Ibrahim, and as Murungi said, I'm a coach, motivational speaker, and business consultant. I'm living actually in Japan, and I'm working here as international sales representative. But also, I'm a mining engineer, and I'm also CEO of a business I'm running in Guinea and named Biko Chim Pro Salu. And this is a company, with the objective to increase, people's business leader skills and, to give a new way to handle things and to be able to bring solutions in any problems we can face in our social business activities in Africa mainly. Thank you very much for having me today.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. So I'll start off by asking, why decide to do these things? Why the coaching? Why the mentoring? What are your stories that finally led you to this step in your life?
Okay, let me go first. So for me, I think when I came to Japan, I came to Japan through a Japanese government program to pursue masters here. But before actually coming to Japan, I had a very stable, I would say I was very, very stable professionally in Kenya. And that decision was not a very easy decision to decide to leave everything I was doing and come to Japan. So I got to know about that opportunity in Japan through a friend. right? And I took it and definitely came here. But then when I was here in Japan, I got to interact with a lot of. So first of all, I was not planning to work in Japan. Probably after my studies, I was planning to go back home immediately. But then I met a number of African professionals in Japan when I was working with the organization that I'm working for right now. And we were building a mentorship program for the African students studying here in Japan. And through that interactions, when we were looking for mentors who were basically African professionals, I realized that a lot of Africans here, professionals who wanted to give back home in one way or the other, and mentoring young people in the continent was one of that way that they would actually give back to the society. And that is why I became so much interested in putting together the initiative that I've put together, obviously with the help of so many other friends who believe in mentoring. And why rural high schools? It's
Yeah.
basically because I taught before in Kenya and I saw the challenges that rural high school kids go through. These are places where there are not so many people that they can look up to, right? I
Mm.
remember way before when we used to be asked when we were in like primary school, um, somebody would ask you, what do you want to be? And a lot of kids would say, I want to be a driver, right? Because that is the only person they would see and they could engage with
Identify,
every
yeah.
other day, probably when they're coming to school, whatever it is, right? So they lacked a lot of, they lacked people that they could look up to from diverse professional backgrounds and all that. And that is why we are focusing on that.
Okay, thank you for that. Coach Barry, why this coaching business? Why spurred you into jumping into it?
All right. First of all, you know, what my brother Celia said, it's really and truly inspiring. And that's something really, really great. And as for me, how I started with coaching, it started basically, it was more personal, because, first of all, coaching is a personal way of improving ourselves. And I remember when I was in at university, undergraduate degree, in my country in Guinea. In that time, I was studying engineering, mining engineering, and I was also president of an organization inside the university. But I was facing mainly, a contrast in my way to be, my behaviors. And in front of people, I was the leader, I was the person who inspired. But once I was alone at home, I was facing my own fears and different kind of bad spirit, if you say like that, who came to disturb me. And I have that problem to really, look at myself in front of a mirror because I was, in that, how can I say, I was locked in that envelope when I was inside and alone. But when I was with people, I was the leader, inspiring and shining. And one day I asked myself, how is that possible that in the same body I can have two different ways of being or living or thinking? How could I shine in front of others and at the same time become my worst, nightmare when I
Yeah.
was so I started to investigate and I asked people, indirectly, if they could help me about understanding myself first, because I wanted to understand myself. And then through different research and online, and also with some books I read and people I met, I came on the way of coaching, but it wasn't so clear that it was coaching. For me, it was just like, okay, a way to understand myself. But I
Mm.
didn't know it was deeper than that. It was something that
Mm.
really exists. It was deeper, but just I didn't knew what was that. And like, my brother Celia said, he talked about reference. And in any society, we want to grow and we want to have someone as a mentor, as a model, as a reference. But I saw no one that I could, really see myself as, okay, this is that person went through the same problems, and that person, overcome that obstacle like this. So I was alone. I couldn't share with people because, in our society in Africa, sometimes when you talk too much about yourself, people start to judge you,
Yeah.
misjudge, and share about your life to other people. So you prefer to stay inside you and just try to figure out how to solve the problem. And then I figured out that in order to solve the problem, I need to look for a reference. I need to look for someone who went through that, someone who overcome that obstacle. And that's why I first, like that, I found a video of a well-known speaker, Les Brown, who really inspired me a lot. And he's well-known and and number one seller motivational speaker in America. And one day I just listened his video, and I was like, it was a shock for me. I was like, okay, I found what I was looking for. I didn't know the name of that, but I found
Mm.
what I was looking for. I was looking for a message of self-development, a message of, becoming your best version, a message called coaching. But the problem was that in that time I couldn't speak English because I'm from a French speaking country, and so I could barely understand what he was talking about. So I decided to learn English, personally. And the other obstacle was that I wanted to find, you know, a reference who is, where I was living, the same environment. Because someone living in America, me living in Guinea, it's difficult to really say, okay, I can really get an inspiration from that person. And one day I found a man, and he's the one I will say my coach, and his name is Musa Berete. He's from Guinea, and he is someone who studied in Morocco, and he one day at university he came and started to talk about personal development. I listened to that guy and I said, okay, once again I found the one I was looking for. But this time he wasn't in America. He was someone living in the same country and having almost the same problems I was facing. So then I approached that guy, start to see what he was doing, talk with him, and day by day I start to really understand, okay, that was what was called coaching. And then I make my own research. And right now I have about 10 years of coaching experiences. I train about thousands of people. I'm organizing now different coaching training online. And and now I'm running my own business now in coaching. And this is my journey with coaching.
Wow. So basically, all I can hear is the need to have role models, role models that are outside the ordinary social boxes. Because Weldon talks about the kids in rural schools just wanting to be drivers. Then Coach Barry talks about seeing some guy in America, but you really cannot, sort of their experiences are different from ours. So looking for people around us. So that is a really powerful thing, and that is one of the reasons why I actually started this podcast. There's a lot of things we see out here abroad, but then how do we, merge the two? Because there's a gap. And I would like to ask you, do you think these things are new in Africa? Is coaching and mentoring a new idea in Africa? What are your thoughts on that? Is it new, or it's been there, but now perhaps there's new glossy words to eat, or maybe I don't know. What are your thoughts?
All right, so that's quite a difficult question because I'm not I'm young, so so truly speaking, let's say coaching. First of all, coaching and mentoring is quite different, because sometimes we make that confusion with mentoring and coaching. Mentoring is about sharing experiences. From someone who has a lot of experiences of training, and he share with someone who has maybe less, or who wants to really, acquire some skills or some particular and specific, skills in order to change something. And generally speaking, coaching is more like, I will guide someone from a point A to a point B, and during the process, we are going to develop all the possibilities, and then I will guide a person through the right possibility who will really be good for that person in order to reach the destination. So this is a little bit about mentoring and coaching. So coaching is that new in our society. Let's say coaching is exists already in other continents, in America, in Europe, in Asia. Let's say people we start to have some coach from Asia, but in Africa it's quite new in terms of coaching as a name of coaching. But in the way of practicing, let's say that it's already exists because we have in Africa, in our society, with our elders. Usually our elders, they coach us indirectly, because they guide us through different part of life, different situations. They tell us what to do, what to avoid according to our realities. And they explain us different things. And even our parents, our mentors, but they're also our coach, because whatever the problem we have, we all time talk with them and we listen to them. And they tell us, you have to do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. It's better you do this, it's better you don't do that. So they are also our natural coaches. So that's why
Mm.
coaching exists, but not on as the name of coaching, as a profession, as a business, as a professional way of doing things. But if we try to put it on a timeline, it exists more longer in the U.S. and in Europe than in Africa or in Asia, as
Mhm.
a name of coaching, as
Question.
really becoming a profession that where people can really earn money and can guide many people according to the society, the age, and also their aspirations in whatever they want to do.
Okay, right. Thank you for that. Well done.
To me, I think mentoring, obviously, I do agree with Coach Barry in terms of, yeah, mentoring as well has existed before, but I think it was not institutionalized in a
Uh-huh.
way. I've seen a lot of schools now and or putting mentorship as part of their program, right? There are a number of international schools or even local schools that have actually put mentorship as part of their everyday program for their students to kind of have people that they can speak to, or
Mm-hmm.
yeah, have invite different speakers to talk to their students about specific careers and things like those. So I think it has been there. We've looked up to people, and I started by saying I think a lot of people look up to drivers, for example, in the rural area, and so that is kind of mentorship, right? But it was not institutionalized. But just to quickly maybe mention something that in my own understanding is the difference
Mm-hmm.
between coaching and mentoring. So there's this story that one of my coaches also shared with me, and we're just trying to understand what's the difference between coaching and mentoring. The work that I do right now involves both,
Mm-hmm.
right? In the NGO that I work for, and so we took this. So it's like being in a forest, right? You find yourself in a forest, and then you have two people. You have one person who've been in that same position in the forest, right? And they have found their way out, right? But then you also have one other person who understands the forest and the dynamics of the forest, and this, so the coach is the one who kind of understands the dynamics of the forest. Maybe they have not been to that specific forest, but they can guide you find techniques and how to figure out directions and things like those to get your way out of the forest. The mentor in this other sense have been in that same position, so he can guide you through how he decide or whatever it is, the route that he took and all that. So that's for me, that's the difference between mentoring and coaching, which is kind of very, very confusing terms. But as I said before, I think these two concepts, specifically mentoring, has been there since time immemorial. But I think it's taking shape right now in terms of I've seen a lot of other people. We do get a lot of professionals reaching out to us that they want to be part of it. They want to be part of this mentorship, and I think probably a lot of people as well didn't understand how powerful it is in terms of guiding the future generation.
And right there is where I would like to ask the next question. How are these two tools important for African development? From your perspectives and from your experiences, what are the gaps you are seeing, and maybe what are the uh, you've coached and you've mentored people. What have you seen them become? And you're like, you know what? This is a powerful tool. We need to have it. We need to spread it in as many parts of Africa as we can because of these ABCD problems in our nations or in our communities. Why is coaching and mentoring important specifically for African development?
Let me go first. So let me state here that I'm very, very new to mentoring. So I actually started maybe around 3 years ago. So I'm still very, very new. I haven't seen actually the fruits of it. So I haven't seen the students that I'm working with actually become the people that they want to be, right? So it's still kind of a process for me. But in terms of generally speaking, in terms of how I look at mentoring as one of the key as an important factor, right, to African development. I think one of the things that we try to do, as I mentioned before, most of our mentors are actually African diaspora. And in terms of sharing, so one of the reasons as well, apart from the rural high school kids not having people to look up to, they also are very limited when it comes to opportunities, right? Most of them, I think kids in rural schools don't decide to go to schools in rural schools. Most of them are forced by circumstances. The fact that maybe they don't have enough money to be taken to maybe big school, high schools, and all that. In Kenya, for example, we have categories of schools, right? International school, then we have these big schools and things like those, right? And some of the kids in rural high schools are actually very, very bright.
Yes, they
But
are.
the thing is that some of them don't see beyond going through high school or beyond high school, right? Because of looking at back where they came from. When I started at the beginning, I say that for me, I never actually imagined studying abroad someday, basically because I was limited in terms of resources, right? But it only like the information that I came through a friend, right? That is the same information that kind of changed my life, right? And so I thought over and beyond mentoring kids in rural schools, it's also important for them to realize that there are so many other opportunities that they can pursue, right? So they don't have to be limited in terms of what they can do and who they can become in the future, right? And then I think having mentors who have gone through specific things, they have gone through specific route in their career, they have a huge understanding or a better understanding on what is needed in the future. They kind of have an understanding of what are the needs for the continent right now, what continent needs, what kind of skills are needed in the continent, of obviously to solve some of the problems that we are facing right now. And that is why I think yeah, looking at it in that perspective, I think it's really, really great, and it's important for the young generation in the continent to have an understanding on where we are as a continent, what kind of challenges we are facing as a continent, and how can we actually be part of the solutions to some of those challenges that we are facing. And I think, yeah, recently I attended an event. We were talking to high school students, and then someone said, when you're figuring out who you want to become in terms of career, don't ask yourself what career do you want to be in. Ask yourself what kind of
What can I?
challenges, what kind of problems do you want to solve, right? And then so that is the first question. And then the second question then would be how, in what way can you actually be part of the solutions to those problems? And that is where you actually come up with something in terms of career and whatever it is that you want to do
Mm,
to solve to be part of the solution. So yes, I do agree that it's very, very important. Yeah.
that's a very interesting perspective of career, because I think when many of us were growing up, it was more about you need to find a job. It was just job, 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 work, 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 money, 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 money. But with this procedure of what is the problem, why are you even interested in that problem, and what do you think the solutions are, and what part can you what how can you be part of the solution? I think that's a very important way of counseling uh, a lot of the young generation to get into careers. Thank you so much for that. I won't forget that as well. Coach Barry?
All right, thank you very much. That was really inspiring from my brother Celia. And what I want to add also is that, as he said, most coach and most mentors are from the diaspora because it's why? Because sometimes we acquire some skills, some new skills we want to share with others in back at home in our country or in the continent. Sometimes also we see the problems because we saw what happened, what's going on, outside of the continent. We saw the solutions, we saw the differences, and we want to bring also those ideas back in our continent, in our countries, in order to change something. Sometimes not about changing, but it's about just making things on the better way. So that's why we usually become naturally mentors or coaches,
Inclined. Yes.
because we go, we have something new we want to share. Sometimes it's not easy to get accepted because our realities also back there, exist.
Yeah.
Sometimes people don't want, they're against any change or any possibility to make things better. So that's why we need also to talk about the difficulties of really becoming a mentor, really becoming a coach. Because sometimes we come with a good idea, you come
Mm.
with the technologies, you come with the solutions. The solution, once they're implemented, they will be good not only for you, but for the community, for the country, and even beyond. But for some particular reasons, those ideas disappear, or you get blocked, or you have some, unexpected issues from people who maybe don't understand, the value of your solution or what you want to bring. And that's why we'll talk about the mindset. Why is it important in Africa? Because we know we have some problems, and it's not a problem, intellectual problem, because we have very
Yeah.
bright people. And if I can see my friends in front of me, I can understand that very bright and really talented. So we have many people who are talented. We have people who study abroad, came back in the country, but still fail to implement what they learn. We also have many people uh, implementing things, starting businesses in Africa, because Africa is moving, Africa is really growing. People are really making things, making progress. There are a lot of people making amazing things there. And I'm really inspired about young people making so many progress in Africa too. So, but sometimes it's difficult to implement. Why? Because the mindset is not prepared. You can have people who want to change, who are risk takers, who are people who can, bring change or progress. And you have also other people on the other side who are against that change and that progress. So, what is the difference? The mindset is different. Some people think about positivity and solution oriented focus activities, and other people don't think the same way. We are not going to blame them. Maybe they never thought it's possible to think the same way or a different way, I want to say. Maybe they never think about that, or they just don't want to think about that, because it depends also on which category of people we are facing. So coaching comes in terms of changing the mindset of people, because coaching is a process of changing the behaviors, but the behaviors, start the change start by the mindset itself, because everything starts from inside. The way to see things, the way to think about things, the way to bring solutions, it's something really important. And when we are able to change our mindset to have a more positive and solution focused oriented mindset than a mindset of destruction and negativity, that time our behaviors will change. And once the behavior change, the actions will change. The action change, the society change, because now we have more real, solutions that exist, because those solutions will not only be inside our mindset, but they will exist in the real world. And that's why coaching is really important in terms of changing our mindsets, our behaviors, our actions, and changing the human resources, of a community, of a country, or of a continent. And also about opportunities, like my brother say, coaching show us it's possible to change the status quo. It's possible to start something new. It's possible to look at other things because back in our country, like Murungi said, once when we are child, parents teach us you have to study, you have to go earn some degrees, you have to get a job, you have to marry, you have to do this, do that. So there's already an organized planning. So usually we don't have the right to change it or to
Yeah.
say something different. Because if we do that, they will say, okay, we are against their authority, we are out of the society, or we are going to fail.
Yeah.
So it's important to show to tell people that you can do something different. It's possible. You can be a mining engineer, you can be a coach, you can be a motivational speaker, you can do something else. You can be an entrepreneur, you can create a company. You can work. Anything is possible. So coaching shows the possibilities. So what is possible? What can you do in the future? And then what is the right way and the easiest way to do that? And the coach will not decide, of course. The coach is just a guide. So he will guide through the process till the person who listening, or the person who want to achieve something, will achieve that and get satisfaction from his own action and from his own success. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And as you said, the mindset. I think our biggest problem when it comes to development is mindset. I remember before coming, of course, because I mean Japan is the place I've stayed longest outside of Africa. Well, I've traveled a bit, but it's just been for, oh, let's travel, let's have fun. But when I came, I realized, well, when I applied for the scholarship to come to Japan, I've always thought to myself, there must be a different way people are doing things out there. It can't be the same as we are doing here, you know. And I tell this story a lot. Many of my friends were going west, and every time they would come back, I felt like, okay, they they have a certain way, a certain thought process that is similar. But I thought to myself, there must be something different from the Western way of thinking. So when I got the opportunity to come to Japan, I was like, okay, let's see what's in the East, you know? And as you said, the mindset, it's different. You'll see different things. You realize different possibilities. You yourself, you'll be like, wait, I can do this, and do the other. How comes no one ever told me about this? You know? So I think, as you brothers mentioned, find there's that bit of African diaspora trying to impose their ideas on our society. Some of the ideas may or may not be realistic, but it is, most times it's out of goodwill. So you talk about uh, institutionalization. So I'll just give you a brief story. As I said, I'm a mentor for Project Girls for Girls, the Ugandan chapter. And I realized that when you institutionalize, or you have a structure to everything you're doing, everything becomes easier. So for Girls, it's a mentoring program, 6 sessions. The 6 sessions can be held in 4 months, in 6 months, and they are targeting different age groups. And the aim is to have more women leading in whichever circle it is. If you want to be CEO, if you want to, I don't know, start a company, if you want to be the best mother, if you want to be, it's entirely up to the individual. And personally, I have seen by the third session, the ladies are blooming, they're blossoming. Someone who started off cowering, most of the sessions are online, but someone who started off cowering is now speaking in the sessions. They have told you they've decided to leave their jobs because they think they can do better. They have gotten confidence. People have started businesses. People have started YouTube channels. People have started all kinds of engagements. And now they're also creating opportunity for others. Someone is about to, because there's also graduation, they tell their sister, their cousin, you need to join this thing. You will open your mind. Me, I can't help you open your mind, but there are people who will help you see the possibility in you. And so I completely agree with the mindset, just helping people realize, apart from A, B, there's an entire alphabet of ways to do things, an entire alphabet of opportunity, people get confidence. And on that part, as we said, I'd like to ask you, now that we know some of the challenges, as you mentioned, acceptance, how can we encourage more people to take up mentoring and coaching? Because I feel like the mentoring and coaching has been success to a great extent, has been successful to a certain group of people. I mean, Coach Barr is going to come and give me a bill, and I'll be like, I know you're trying to help me, but I think I will. Let us wait for maybe 5 years time when I can afford it, Or Weldon will come to my organization and say, mentoring is important for your organization, but we can do this for you, but these are the resources you need to help us with. That kind of, because I mean, it just can't be we are giving. The other person too has to have an input. So how would you encourage people to be more accepting of these services? Because deep down, there are people who know it's important for me. And also, how do we try to break that? I don't know what you guys call it in your different countries, but in Uganda, we call it the Basama mentality. When people come from abroad, they're coming for summer. I'm here for the summer. I'm here for the summer. So we call them Basama. So how do we break that Basama mentality so that people are more accepting of these ideas? What have been some of the ways you've gotten people to embrace mentoring or coaching?